Well, hello, kids. Today I want to talk about promises. I'm eventually going to talk about the promises of God, but I want to start off by talking about the promises that you make, because I know you make some promises. You promise some things to your teachers. You promise some things to your brothers and sisters. You promise a lot of things to your parents. And, for example, maybe you tell your parents, maybe your mom is going into the next room and you promise Mom, I promise I'm going to do my homework. I'm going to do my homework. But sometimes you break that promise and you don't do your homework. And so it's like, that's how much your promise is worth. Well, maybe there is times when, you're having fun, you want to do some things, and it's time to clean your room. And your dad comes in and says, it's time. And you look at your dad and you say, well, Dad, I promise, as soon as I get done doing what I'm doing here, I'm going to clean my room. But you know what? Sometimes you don't do that. Sometimes you break your promise. And, here's your promise. And so much for that promise. Well, sometimes, you fight with your sister. I know you do. You fight with your sister pretty much all the time. And every once in a while, your parents will get tired of it. And they'll sit you down. They'll give you some really big discipline. And you'll feel really bad about it. And you'll look right in your eye with tears in your eyes. You'll look at your mom and dad and say, I'm never going to fight with my sister again. I promise. Well, we all know what happens for that. You make that promise and you break it. And yeah, so much for that promise. And maybe it's some other chore. You got some other chores you need to do. You just don't feel like doing it. You make a promise. I'm going to do my chores, I promise. But nope, didn't keep that one down. Sometimes we're good at keeping our promise, but we break our promises. We're human. That's just the way it works. And we should try to do better, but because we're human, we're going to break our promise. Well, God's a whole lot better than us. God makes promises, and his promise he never breaks. For instance, God promises he's never going to leave us. And so he makes that promise. But his promise isn't like a flimsy piece of paper. It's like a big, thick book. There's lots of promises that God makes in his book. And God doesn't break his promise. In fact, he can't break his promise. I kind of go like this, and there's no way. God's promises are solid. He says he'll never leave us. He says that he's always going to love us. He promises that. He promises he's going to guide us through life. He promises that when we come to him and confess our sins, he's going to forgive our sins. God makes all these promises in the book. And God just, because of who he is, he can't break his promise. He's always good for the things. No matter what we do, we can karate chop, we can do anything. But God doesn't ever break his promises. I want you to know that, kids. I want you to know that when you read something in the Bible and God promises it, he's good for it. He's way better than you. We really thank God for that. God is a promise keeper. Well, I want you to remember that this week, and it's good talking to you kids, and we'll see you next week.